There are a ton of reasons why your Google Ads might not be working. In this video, we're going to break down exactly the sequence of thought that we have when trying to diagnose why something might not be working on Google Ads. And that way you know where the problem is and you can fix it. So jumping in, first is going to be isolating variables. We talk about this in other videos. The biggest thing you could be doing is making sure if you're going to change variables, they're the right variables to change. And the best way to do that is by isolating them and trying to figure out where exactly the bottleneck is or the actual issue. So when it comes to variables, there's a couple main ones. There are more, minute detail ones, but it's generally going to be falling into these categories. So one's going to be targeting. Next is going to be the ads you're using and the content within those ads. Next is going to be account structure, which is actually how you build out the account, different campaigns you use, the way the campaigns are actually built. And then last is going to be the web assets, which is anywhere you send the actual traffic to that could be converting it. So like I said, most of the time it's going to fall in these four categories, and we'll go into each of these categories and what we look for. So next is going to be targeting. So targeting, the premise of targeting is going to be, especially with Google Ads, is going to be going after intent-driven traffic. We talk about this all the time. Use that key term. It's going to be qualified traffic that you know is going to convert when it gets to the web page. You don't want to usually go broad. Most of the time, broad is a late game skill type of play. It's always almost going to be specific to the type of phraseology or even longer tail type keywords that are more likely to convert. So if you're looking at your actual search term report, which once again, search term report is going to be what's actually shown for your ads. So it's going to be what people type into Google specifically to see your ad, not your keyword targeting, which is what triggers the ad. And when you look at your search term report, you're going to be able to see all the traffic you're paying for. And there's not really a percentage of like quality traffic within there. It's kind of something you have to deduce from there. But what you're going to want to do is look at, a 2-week time frame, 30-day time frame, and look at all the terms your ad's showing for and seeing if they are quality qualified traffic. If you have a large percentage of cheap traffic or at least traffic that's not qualified or junk traffic, that's gonna be a big part of your issue. That means, let's say only half of your traffic coming to your website is gonna be viable, and that's gonna cut all of your other numbers down by a half. So first thing you're gonna wanna look at here is gonna be search term report. Within the search term report, if you have really qualified traffic as a majority, you're probably going to be good here. That's nice about Google. It's very black and white whether or not you're paying for the right traffic. So if you are paying for the right traffic, you can move on. If not, you're going to want to take action to make sure you are going after the right traffic, which is usually going to be working on the grouping of targeting. It's going to be the settings around the targeting that you're using. If you're using broad, phrase, exact, and then of course the actual keywords you're targeting. That's where you go to solve that. Next is going to be the ads. So a lot of the times ads isn't always the problem, because the only time you'd see ads as the issue is if you have, terminology in the ads that are steering people in the wrong direction. And it's very common sense not to do that. A lot of the times if you're writing ads, you're going to write it relevant to the keywords you're targeting. This also comes into, like I said on the last slide, grouping the targeting together. When we're grouping ads and the targeting together in different ad sets, you want to make sure they're relevant to each other, and you're only throwing in per ad set very specific keywords that are next to each other instead of, let's say multiple products in the same ad group. You got to remember that it'll only show one ad at a time for the targeting that you're going after. And you need to make sure that ad is specific to all of the keywords that are in that ad set. And that's why you want to fixate like that and segment. With the ads, like we've talked about in other videos, there's going to be, headlines, descriptions, could be different visuals you use, but it's really hard to mess up the ad copy unless maybe English isn't your first language, or maybe you're new to the ad world. It's not going to be that difficult to write in the right ad copy. So this is usually the least of people's worries, but it's good to look at. One of the things you want to identify with this on is going to be the click-through rate. So if you have really good search term quality, but you have a low click-through rate, when we're talking low click-through rate, it's going to be something like below, let's say 2%. Usually 2 to 3% click-through rate is going to be industry average. Anything above that's better. Below, it's worse. And if you're below that, then you want to look at your search term report. If the traffic's qualified, then you want to look at the ads and figure out, okay, what am I showing this traffic that's making them not want to click on the ad? So that's how you get to that. Next is going to be account structure. There are a lot of ways you can build out campaigns or accounts. The key to Google is generally segmenting, because segmenting helps with relevancy. If you look into the campaigns, they have low click-through rate, they have low conversion rate, and you want to just make sure that the campaign structure, the campaign types you're running are looking good. Generally going to look at how you segment them. This is usually an overarching, factor to the account. There's, for example, just to clarify, these play into that, like the targeting, the ads. If you have low click-through rates or low quality of traffic, it's going to be within the actual account structure. A lot of the success at a high level on Google will come down to how you build out campaigns segment, and then handle the actual structure of the account and whether you're using campaign types that are viable with what's working right now. So it's a little bit trickier to get onto exactly what structure you have and what's not working, because it's based off of all these other variables that we're talking about right now in this video. So it will be important. There are certain settings you want to avoid. So for example, one of the classic ones going to be in the location targeting. Sometimes people will have this setting on like presence and interested for the location you're targeting. What that'll do is it'll show the ads to people who are also just interested in the location you're trying to target. So they might be from New York and you're trying to sell to California, but they're looking at a vacation in LA. And just because they're looking at LA, it'll show you their ad. A couple more, like for example, search network. Generally want to leave off the display and search network because those are the websites outside of Google. We always want to show on Google first. So it is important to look through your settings and make sure you're using, best practice based off of some of the other videos we do. But if everything else is equal, you're going to look at the other variables to figure out what the exact issue is, and it might add up to this one. So next is going to be web assets. Web assets is what we're going to look at if everything else on the platform is great, if you have a really good click-through rate, the traffic's qualified, everything's really, really clean. Then we're going to look at the web assets and why it's not converting it. Now, there's a couple things you're going to look at here. It's going to be, of course, where you're sending the traffic. PMAX, for example, will dictate where the traffic goes. It can go to different inner pages. It can go to your blog if you have a blog. It can go to the home page, whatever it is. You have less control there. But when it comes to search ads, you can dictate exactly where the ad goes. So make sure to look in your ads, look at the links that are in there. Sometimes you're using a page you didn't think you were using. If everything's good there though, and you have the right pages you want, you have great search traffic quality, you have good click-through rate numbers, it's going to come down to the assets in the product to actually convert that traffic. And when you have a product, it makes it a little bit trickier because if you don't have proof of concept from other channels, your product could be the issue. Maybe it's not the right product market match. Maybe there's too much competition on Google. But if you have proof of concept on the product and it's selling really well on Facebook or TikTok, wherever it is, then you can look at Google and say, okay, it's the assets. If you have great assets, they're converting, but the product's not converting, then you look at the product. So this is a little bit tricky to diagnose if you don't have past data. If you have no data and you're only running Google itself as the main channel, then it might come down to it just not being the best market fit. Because if you have the ideal, best possible type of traffic and it's still not converting, you have a really clean website, the CRO is really clean. Once again, CRO is conversion rate optimization. So you have all the elements that would make it more likely to convert the traffic. Then you have an issue where, okay, the product's just not selling. What do I need to do to make it sell? Do I need to enhance the branding, the assets around it, the imagery, the video, whatever it is? Or is this product simply just not a good product to run with paid traffic? So that's really important. And then a really simple concept is just asset relevance. You want to make sure that the traffic you're sending to your assets relevant to the specific asset. That comes down to segmentation of your campaigns. If you don't have the right segmentation and everything's just going to one asset, that could water down the actual conversion rate of the assets. So you want to make sure terms related to certain products are going to those specific products. The category page or home page is good for general type traffic, but you want to make sure it's segmented properly or else you will lose the traffic at that point. That's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed this one. Any questions, throw them in the comment below and I will answer them personally for you.